one of my psychic friends looked at me and was like, girl, you having a baby? And I was like, wow, rude. They're supporting characters of the main screenplay, which is me. I got excited and I choked over my spit. But, hey guys, it's mysticrainn here and welcome back to this channel. So many of you guys have reached out to me saying, mysticrainn, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, you explained concepts that I didn't really understand before, and now I understand them. The issue is that now it's about like applying that to real life. So you guys are really starting to understand the theory, but not necessarily understanding how things work or how things look in practice, right? When you're just kind of going about your everyday. And I was thinking long and hard on what I can do about this. And what I realized is that there isn't much I could do, simply because everyone is so different, and how spirituality looks for you or how working with spirit looks for you will change based off of who you are. So my daily life won't look like your daily life. However, I thought it could be fun to talk about things that I experience in my daily life, because I have a very paranormal life. And that maybe you could apply it to yourself. And if you can't apply it to your situation, maybe it just gives you more exposure to other ideas and other concepts that you probably wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. I thought it would be cool to kind of just really just chit chat to you guys, or with you guys, about just my own personal life and my own personal experience. You know, I figured we're gonna kick off a whole chat, I guess, really kind of about my love life, because spirituality, at least for this year, plays a massive, massive role in that. And you guys actually may be kind of fascinated by what it is that I'm experiencing, or maybe some of you guys are experiencing this too. And for the rest of you, you guys are probably just like really nosy, and it's like a Thursday night and you have nothing else to do. So I'm just gonna give you, hopefully, some entertaining tea. So maybe you should go and like get something to drink. I don't know. So let's start from the beginning. I, every year, at the beginning of the year, really sit down and I do like weeks of spiritual ritual where I like hone in on myself and I think about what happened the previous year and what do I want to happen in that current year, right? What do I want to accomplish? Things I want to see, things I want to get rid of. I really sit down with myself and like figure all of that out. And then I do a bunch of sort of meditations and channeling, and I talk to the spirits to really kind of work it out. And a lot of times it happens to me in the beginning of the year when I'm sitting in like these weeks longs of like self-imposed meditation. I get these information dumps from spirit, just information dump after information dump, and they're telling me things to look out for, telling me things that are going to be happening throughout the year. And when I receive it, because it's usually always in January, I never know what they're talking about, because I have no context for any of this information whatsoever. This particular year, I did this ritual at the end of January, right? So like a week going into February. And I'm like wrapping up my channel and my meditation. And I feel like, should I go back? Well, okay, so I'm wrapping up my channel and meditation, and the light beings come through as I'm wrapping up. So the light beings essentially cut my spirit guides off, cut my ancestor guides, and they came and they kind of came through. I'm gonna put a picture of a light being in here somewhere so you can actually see what it is that I actually saw, and then maybe I'll do another video talking more about them. But anyway, so they came in and they just was like, oh, by the way, before you go, we want to give you a message. And I was like, okay, yeah, what is it? And they was like, Euros. That's all they said. Or Euros. To this day, I'm still really not sure how to pronounce it. And then they spelled it for me and they said it's E-R-O-S. And I was like, okay. And prior to that, I had never knew what that meant. I had never heard of it. I had never knew what it meant. And so, of course, I went to the Google machine and I Googled it. And it turns out it is the god, I think it's the Roman god of love and sex. And I remember reading it laughing to myself, because at this time, and honestly prior, the idea of dating just did not appeal to me, doesn't appeal to me, never appealed to me. The idea of honestly just wasting my time with the dusties just never was something that was fun for me, right? And so in my head, I was like, oh, they've got the wrong girl, right? They're totally mistaken. This is not what they meant. And then I was like, well, spirit never really gets it wrong. And I was like, maybe I'm supposed to work with these energies to help clients, right? Now, this god of love and sex is also the equivalent to Cupid. And I was like, oh, they really got this messed up. I was like, there's no way this has anything to do with me. And then they said to me that in about 4 to 5 months' time, it'll start to make more sense. And that was it. And so after that, I didn't pay any attention to it. I went about my life, completely forgot about it. And then around June-ish, because June is my birthday, I just had this whole glow up moment where I was like fully in love with myself, and like the self-love was just everything, right? And then all of a sudden I started getting like these psychic hits randomly that was like, oh, love is probably going to be walking into your life. And I remember thinking that that was really weird because it wasn't something that I was looking for. You know, at that time I wasn't on like any dating apps or anything like that. And if any of you guys have watched any of my vlogs, there's one vlog where I actually kind of mentioned this. But it just came in really strong as a psychic hit, and I just thought it was like the weirdest thing. And then I went to a psychic fair because I was participating, and one of my psychic friends looked at me and was like, "Girl, you having a baby?" And I was like, wow, rude. Like, I understand I like cookies, but you don't have to go there. And they were like, no, like, you just have like baby love energy just all around you. Like, are you seeing someone? Because I feel like you're about to be seeing someone and it's going to be like a whirlwind. And I was like, no, like, I'm not seeing anybody. I don't know what you're getting any of this from. But I thought it was really interesting considering the fact that I had already kind of intuitively picked up on that energy myself, right? Anyway, let's just fast forward. We are now in the month of November. In the last 3.5 months, and hold your panties, I have been proposed to 3 times by 3 different men. And they were serious. And they meant it. And okay, let me clarify this proposal thing because I don't want you thinking, oh my God, there's like men like on one knee. That's not what I mean. I call them like soft proposals. It's like when someone like comes to you and they're serious. Like they like come to you physically and they go, hey, I've been doing a lot of thinking about my life, where I am in it, and you know what? I think you'd be perfect and that you would fit perfectly there, and I really want you in my life, and I really want to marry you. And so what I'm asking is, how do you feel about that? Because if I ask you, I want to make sure you're going to say yes. I have had this happen to me 3 times, and since in the last 3.5 months, 3 times in the last 3.5 months. I have also had well, honestly, I couldn't even tell you the amount of boyfriends that I've ended up having. And you know what? Like, not even on a, like, she's a for the streets moment, but something happened energetically in my life where I would, like, meet someone and then fall hard, and then they would fall. And then for whatever reason, they would make me mad, and then I would break up with them. And then a week later, I would meet somebody else, fall, they would make me mad, I'd break up with them. And so like none of these guys I'm with because I've chosen not to be with any of them, but all of them have really were anticipating spending like a lifetime with me. And I thought that was really weird. And honestly, in between those 3 in particular, there have been other suitors or like people actively and genuinely trying to get my attention for like serious relationships, serious connections, and all that kind of stuff. And I really had to like zoom out and like look at this spiritually and be like, okay, like what does this mean? Because I was told ahead of time. Now I had assumed that I was gonna get hit in the butt with Cupid's arrow one time and then like fall madly in love and that would be the end of it. But that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like it's happening over and over and over and over again. Now, building up to this, I was getting signs and synchronicities from the universe, repeating numbers, seeing feathers, and before the first wave of men hit, I actually ended up with a business card that said Cupid on it. And it was a really weird situation. I remember I had wanted to buy a new area rug. And so I was driving around looking for a place to buy a rug. And then I passed this sign on the road that's like liquidation, because like a COVID like liquidation sale, you know, we have furniture, we have rugs. So I go to the store and they don't have a rug. They have not one rug, right? I'm looking around the store. They have nothing that I need. So I try to leave, and then the woman was like, well, you know, like if I was like, we have a guy that like special makes rugs and we can get a rug for you custom or whatever. And I was like, no, that's obviously doesn't sound like my budget. I'm looking for something that's like $20 from like a Ross or something like that. She was like, no, they can work with you. And it was just this woman who was pressuring me. She's like, let me give you his information. Let me give you his information. And she just would not let up. And in my head, I was like, all right, like entertain her, just get the number. And then when you walk out the store, you can throw it away. She hands me the card for this guy, and the card literally says Cupid on it. And then there's a phone number. And I swear to you, I can't make this up. I don't even know where I put it. It's like it disappeared. But like it was, and I had like took a photo of it and I sent it to my best friend, and they called me back and they were like, holy crap. And then after that, in terms of like romance, my life just took off in a whirlwind. And it's crazy because it's been 3.5 months, but it feels like I have lived years. I feel so old. Like I just feel so old when it comes to that. And I had to like take a moment and take a step back. Why am I taking a step back? Because I just stopped seeing the last guy I was seeing. No, he's not one of the 3 that have asked for my hand, but I was seeing him, and it was like, it was one of those shooting the arrow things. Like the connection was really weird. It's this weird, energetic, magnetic thing that's happening that I've never experienced before with multiple people. It's like I have like an insane set of pheromones, but it's fascinating because if I wasn't given the forewarning that this was going to happen, I don't think that I would have the ability to cope, if I'm honest. And I remember having a session with spirit, because I talk to the spirits, and I was asking them like, what is this about? Because these people are coming in, they're holding up mirrors to me that are frightening, but there are things that I have to solve, fix, heal. Some of the things are past life things I need to solve, fix, heal. And what I was told by spirit was that I'm experiencing this because I'm in a process of upgrading, right? And so they are challenging me. A lot of these men that are walking into my life are like soul contract situations where they're challenging me to level up. But the thing that I find probably the most interesting is before all of this kicked off really heavy, I remember when I was like in my self-love moment back in June, I said to myself, and it was just this really weird psychic hit, and I was like, why does it feel like you're going to get married? And why does it feel like you're going to get married relatively soon? And the reason why this is weird for me is anybody that knows me in my personal life knows that I do not talk about that stuff. I'm not interested in it. I haven't been interested. I was always a person that's like, I don't care about getting married. I don't care about having kids. It just was not me. And so for me to sit back and think, uh-oh, this feels like it could be on the horizon was actually kind of terrifying for me. It wasn't an exciting experience when I picked up on it. I actually tried really, really hard to reject the whole thing completely because I was like, this is not what I want, like at all. But my life just kind of continues to go this way. And so back when I was dating, I couldn't remember which number he was at this point, and whatever. But I mean, the first one in a 3.5 month cycle that I have currently hit, I remember feeling this really strong energetic signature around my hand. And what it felt like a phantom ring. Like a phantom ring was placed on my ring finger. And I remember like looking at my hand going, like just instinctively doing this, almost as if you were playing with a ring. But I remember like trying to take it off because it was like this prominent, just energetic heaviness on my finger. It felt like I was wearing a ring and I couldn't take it off, right? And I was like, that's so weird. Like, what does this mean? And I was like, oh my God, is it this guy? Like, what is this? I don't really understand what was happening. And then maybe about a month after that, I was talking to the spirits and I was channeling. And my mother, who is on the other side, she popped in. Now, me and my mother don't talk much, mostly because I'm still working through my mother issues. So we don't really talk much like that. So when she does have a tendency to pop in, she pops in with force. and she always has something very deliberate to say, and then she's done, right? And so this particular time, she just popped in, and she was really excited, and she goes, "Oh, I just had to tell you that I walked you down the aisle." And I felt my whole body get hot. I was like, "What are you talking about?" She was like, "Well, I walked you down the aisle." And I said, "Well, I don't know how you walked me down the aisle. I ain't even got no man. Like, what is this?" Like, this was like when I was like in like my week, like turnover rate, because these days it seems to be a week. I don't really understand what that's about, right? But anyway, it seemed like I was like kind of in that space, and she was like, "No, like I've already walked you down the aisle." And then I saw like I call like my spirit guides and my angels my counsel, because there's a lot of them, and I saw them kind of like smile and like nod in agreement. And so when I was asking more questions about that, I said, "I don't understand what you mean by you walked me down the aisle. Like I'm nowhere near that." And so what they explained back to me was that time and space is only a construct of this reality, that it doesn't exist anywhere else. So when you're working with spirit is almost looking down at you like a bird's eye view, and from their perspective they've already watched the whole movie, right? There is no like waiting to see what happens. They already know what happens because they've watched the movie. And where they are, there is no concept of time and space. So the way they explained it to me was, they said, "Well, it doesn't matter if that's what if you don't want that, because it's already happened. Like the decision has already been made. It's already happened, right? Like it already exists. It's just a matter of when your reality here catches up to this particular reality, because it's going to, right?" And I remember just being like, "What the, like, what are you talking about?" But I got excited and I choked over my spit. But it's interesting because my mother was not a lovey-dovey person. This is part of my mother issues, actually. And she was not someone that you wanted to talk to when it came about like relationships or like you being in love. In fact, there was like this running joke in the family that like if you're seeing someone that you really like, you never take it to that woman, because that woman will she'll crap all over it and then you'll feel bad. So you never talked about who you were dating or who you wanted to date with her, because she was just a Debbie Downer, and honestly a whole hater, if I'm going to be real here, okay? A whole hater. So you just never brought romance to her. And she would have been the last person that would have been excited about anybody getting married, because she had her own things that she was working through, and like she was jaded herself. And so the fact that my mother, who would have never approved of any relationship that I would have ever gotten into, ever, it doesn't matter who this person was, it was just because she just didn't condone relationships in general for anybody. It was very weird to have her pop in with such an energetic force and be like, "I already walked you down the aisle," particularly because I'm a person that's not interested in any of that. And I haven't been interested in any of that. And I've always been someone that actually really heavily rejected the notion of marriage and children. So much so that people would actually get offended that they felt like I didn't want kids, which was like weird to me, because I'm like, well, it's not like you have to, like, who, like, what is, like, how does what I want affect your life? Like, whatever. And so for her to be like, "Oh no, I've already walked you down the aisle," she was like, "I'm so excited about it too. I just thought you should know." I was like, "What?" And it correlated to that same time where I felt that phantom ring on my finger. And it has been on my finger ever since, and it never comes off my finger. What I have noticed is every time I make a key decision, and it seems as if it's every time I make a key decision that gets me closer to that, my finger starts to feel like it's glowing. Like there's energy pulsing through it, almost kind of like a heat signature. And it sounds so weird, and there was also a point where I was like, holy crap, maybe I have circulation issues, and maybe this is like the one part of my body where I have circulation issues. And so I tried everything to like disregard it, and I was like, maybe I need to go to a doctor. I was like, maybe I have a circulation issue and it is only on my ring finger of my left hand. This has to be the one thing that explains it. And of course, I don't have an issue with my finger, right? So, but I have something that feels like a ring that's on my finger. There'll be times where I will be sitting there playing with it. Like, as everyone like that actually has real rings, sometimes you'll like play with it. I'll do this and there's nothing on my hand, but I'll do this and like play with it, or I'll like move it around, and then I'll look down and there's nothing on my hand. But every time I make a decision that feels like it's gotten me closer to that, or it has put me in alignment with that future, um, my finger gets like red hot and it's crazy. And the reason why I'm talking about it is particularly when it comes to these people that like I have been having crazy intense connections with, and then like having these crazy intense like roller coaster, like real quick fast like love situations. And the dynamic of them are so intense that it's more than of just an infatuation thing. It's more than oh, he's like really cute thing. It's super weird and I don't understand it at all. But it's like incredible. It's a very spiritual experience. And even with like these people that I'm experiencing them with, a lot of them aren't necessarily what they would consider to be spiritual, but they have also acknowledged that for them, it feels like an intense spiritual moment. And they also don't understand what it is either. But it's like this energetic force where it's like, zzz, and then it's all this work gets done amongst us. And by the time we've gone through 30 days, it's like a 30-day cycle. I've worked, they've worked, and then it's done. And it's almost like the contract is over. It's so intense, but it's weirdly traumatic because in your head you're going, well, is this the person? And then when you feel those intense emotions, you think it could be. And then when it like dissipates, there's like that disappointment of like, oh my God, maybe I got it wrong. But every time it happens, my finger glows red hot. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you were just there to help me through whatever it was that you were supposed to help me through, like whatever part of the mission was yours, because obviously there's a situation where people are like passing off batons to get me to where it is that I'm going, but it's crazy intense and it's highly spiritual. And in this 3.5-month time, I've also noticed that my spiritual abilities have gotten very, very, very sensitive. So for example, one thing that I can do now, or do well anyway, like I'm like now telepathic. That wasn't a thing that I used to have before. You know, I can hear other people's thoughts, particularly when it comes to like these connections that I've been bumping into. There is such a strong energetic bond that I can hear what they're thinking. Like I can hear them, like how you hear me right now, like talking through things, and then I'll call them or I'll see them and be like, hey, were you thinking blah, 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 blah? And then it turns into a, oh my God, you know me so well, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, like, I just think I'm talking to the spirits. Like there's something more to this, right? And then another thing that I can do, I can in-body channel, which was not a thing before for me. I used to have the ability to like channel messages and then relay them back to you, but I was never like an in-body channel where like you could share your consciousness or whatever. And literally one day, whilst going through all of this, I start to feel my body tuning. And anybody that's a channel understands what that means. Before you channel, your body will tune, particularly if you're an in-body channel, because it has to readjust to the frequencies. If you try to channel frequencies from a higher dimensional being through this body, it could hurt you because this body isn't built for it. And so in-body channels will tune. And so if anybody has watched videos on people in-body channeling, you'll notice that maybe they have little ticks, right? So maybe their head tilt like ticks, or some people like clench their teeth. Some people rock. That's a really common one, like they're rocking back and forth. What all of that movement is doing is helping the energy that's entering the body disperse. So when you see people rocking, it's because they're dispersing all the energy that's coming into the body, right? So it's not sitting in one place, because if it sits in one place, it becomes volatile. And so I noticed one day I was sitting on the couch minding my own business, and I felt my body start to tune. And I thought they just wanted to talk to me and channel normally, like how they normally do, but that's not what happened. My body continued to tune, and then it was tuned, it would tune up, and then it would tune up, and then it would tune up, and it was tuning to a level that I had never experienced before. But that day, I remember just feeling like, because everything was really weird spiritually, I'm like, all right, what else you got? And so I'm allowing this to happen, and I feel like I must have tuned for about 10-15 minutes of just and feeling it, and then feeling my ears tune, right? So when your ears start tuning, for some of you, particularly if you're clairaudient, you'll notice a ringing. But there's a ringing in your ears, one thing, and then there's a tuning of your ears, that's another thing, and it's a different kind of ringing. And when it's tuning, a lot of the times it's happening is that it pitches up, and then it'll pitch up again, and then it'll pitch up again, and then you'll hear it kind of tuning, kind of like antennae, right? And so I feel my body tune, and it's continuing to tune, and then I feel my ears start tuning, and I'm like, you know what? They must have a lot to say today because this is new, right? And then I start to feel my throat tune, which was a really interesting experience because I never felt that before. I felt the energy in my throat move and then swirl and then like leave. And then I felt more energy come in and then leave. And then my throat was tuning. And it was in that moment where I was like, oh my God, like, am I going to in-body channel? And then all of a sudden I started to hum. And again, this is really interesting for anybody who has maybe witnessed like someone in body channeling and maybe they hum before they start speaking. That's because you're tuning the throat chakra, right? Because the words that are going to start flowing through you are coming from a higher dimension, right? So your current throat chakra isn't tuned to hold it. And so what you'll notice is that people hum a little bit or they'll sing or something, but you'll start to notice that they start making noise or producing like notes that aren't something that you would typically hear somebody do. It's because it's tuning. And I started to hum, I started to tune. And I remember, because I'm very fully aware of this experience, right? It's not like I like left the body, I didn't know what was going on. And I remember thinking like, what on earth is happening? And all of a sudden they started speaking through my mouth. And I was like, what? What on tarnation is this? But at that point, so many things spiritually had been happening that I was just like allowing it to flow, right? And then so it's flowing and it's flowing and I'm like, wow. And they're like doing all these kind of like downloads of information. But it's just been a crazy whirlwind spiritual moment because even though like my love life these days is popping, right? It's not popping because it's for the sake of just having something to do. It's happening because all of these people are coming into my life and they're helping me heal things, address issues and traumas that weren't previously addressed, shut doors on past lives that I hadn't previously shut doors on, and it's turning into a massive spiritual experience for me. And it's also turning into a massive spiritual experience for them too. And it's quite fascinating because whenever I kind of get bummed that maybe like one didn't work or something like that, I start to remember like, well, who were you before they came in and what have you learned? And what I'm realizing is that it's not like the normal amount of things that you learn when you like end a fling or a relationship or whatever. It's like this long laundry list of things that I've learned about myself that a lot of times takes people years in a relationship to learn because the energy have been so heavily intense. Like even for example, I think maybe from the time this video goes up, the last one I ended, I'm just going to put ended in heavy quotes because like screw them, right? I'm talking about me. Like they are just like, they're supporting characters of the main screenplay, which is me. So we're going to put it in heavy quotation marks, right? So from the time this video goes up, like we ended things, I ended things. I ended things. I just don't want to sound like that. So like we ended things. So like we ended things and within 48 to 72 hours, somebody had came and they were like, no, seriously, remember when I had asked you to get married? I mean that. You want to go do that? And I just remember thinking to myself, like, it's just really wild. Just kind of like, we say, like, when one door closes, another door opens, and we think of that as like material opportunities, right? We think of that as like jobs, money, different things like that. We don't always remember too that sometimes that has to do with like love and relationships. And I think it's really important to point this out now because based off of just planetary alignment, a lot of people are actually going to be coming in contact with their twin flames by the end of this year. And because of just kind of the activation of various souls and people and kind of where we need to get this planet in terms of frequency, there are going to be a lot of unions that are going to start forming. I suspect, and this is like a 2021 prediction, that that's going to be a really huge theme in 2021. Just like people who your people are just going to be waking up like, I met my soulmate, like I met the person. They're just going to be feeling that way because it's time to bring all the souls back together. And it makes sense if you zoom out and you think about the fact that we are activating. If you are on this channel, you are aware of the fact that there are so many people right now that are waking up and activating. With that, that means that there are people who have made the decision to serve the collective. Because just because you're activated doesn't mean you wanted to serve the collective in this lifetime, right? It just may be easier for you to do what you wanted to do while activated, and so you choose to activate. But for those that have made the decision to serve the collective in the activation period, those people have to then go and upgrade. And so what they're doing, they're being put in pressure cookers right now, right? Because they have to cook on time, right? We don't have time for you to take all 20 years to figure it out. We need you ready to go by January 1st, 2021. And so that's what's happening. When all these people start activating and then all these people start upgrading, because everyone's soul right now has such specific purposes in regards to elevating the frequency of these planets, these souls are now going to start joining back up together. So we're going to see a lot of twin flames. We're going to be seeing a lot of soulmates. You're going to be meeting soul families. You're going to be meeting like some of the most best friends that you have ever experienced in life. And for a lot of you, it's going to be situations where you're going to feel like, what? I never thought that this would happen because I'm grown. And people always say that after a certain age, right? Like you stop meeting friends. No, like for 2021, like 2021 is going to be a huge year of souls rejoining. And a lot of that is going to be romantic. And I'm not talking about someone that you just like met off a Tinder and you really, really like him. I mean, souls who incarnated specifically for this reason. So there's going to be a lot of that. And it's meant to start based off a planetary alignment next month. Right? And it's going to be a running theme for the next few years, but you're going to see it really, really heavily play out in the year of 2021. And so it makes sense because if I backtrack, because this story is all over the place, considering the fact that like it's a year long, like this year is almost over and it started at the beginning of the year. Back in the beginning of July, I was laying in my bed. And this is when the telepathy started, right? I was laying in my bed. And all of a sudden I could hear someone's throat. I could hear someone talking, like I could hear spirit. And I was painfully aware that that spirit that I was listening to was incarnate, meaning they were alive and that they were on this plane. I was painfully aware that it wasn't a spirit that was on the other side or in a different dimension. And I was so confused because I didn't know what any of it meant. I was like, what? Because I had never experienced it before, and I could hear this person thinking. I could hear what they were talking about. I could hear. I knew it was a man because it was a very male. There was a very masculine sort of dominance in the sort of energetic signature, and I could hear what they were thinking. And it was very interesting in terms of they were thinking specifically about like love and knowing that they wanted a partnership and knowing that they had wanted to be with someone and knowing that they had wanted to look, but kind of being afraid to seek. There was also this other element of they didn't want to talk to their friends about it because they didn't want their friends to kind of make fun of them. There was like this underlying element of, oh, they won't get it, but I'm just going to go look. And there was this moment that they decided to just go do it, right? They were just going to go find this person. And I probably heard this, whoever this person is, on and off for about 2 weeks. It would just be random, like during the day where they would go, okay. And so to this day, I don't actually know who this person was, right? Haven't heard them since my whirlwind kicked off with like my spiritual journey mixed with love and like my healing of traumas and issues. I actually haven't heard this person at all. All I know was that obviously they're significant, or I wouldn't have picked up on it. Just couldn't tell you who they were. And ever since then, the telepathy just got really, really intense. And I can just hear people, particularly if you are someone that's connected to me. So if you are someone that's connected to me by some kind of soul contract or something like that, I can hear it. And it's weird and it's wild. And you don't tell people this because that's when they put you in a nut house. But I decided that it could be cool talking to you guys about it because I feel like it may not just be me. I have a sense that there are people out there that are sensing things for them as well. Like, I can sense a very big change that's going to be happening in my life. I couldn't tell you what that change is. I have absolutely no idea. The spirit has told me to start preparing because this time next year, my life will look incredibly different. And they didn't say it in terms of an omen, but they said it in a way that's like energetically, it's going to be so different for you that it'll be best if you just kind of accepted it today, right? And so I'm telling you guys this because I feel like this may be able to help you, because like this is like real deal what I kind of experience and like how it intertwines in my personal life and like in my spiritual growth. This is playing out in a romantic sense right now, but it plays out in so many different kinds of ways at different points in times in my life. And this is just one way that it's playing out because it's been a running theme for me for a year, and it's been sign after sign and spirit talking after spirit talking and message after message, and it's constant and it's consistent. And so obviously there is something there. At this point, I'm just going with it, and I have no idea what it's going to look like. I have no idea how long it's going to take. I have no idea when it's going to pan out or how that actually looks. I also don't really care what it looks like or how it pans out or how it looks, because I have faith. And a lot of times that's all you really need. And so I'm not in a place where I feel like I need to control it or I need to rush it along or I need to speed it up, because I know that it exists, right? I've had a lot of sort of confirmations that it exists, because spirit is really good for that. If you wanted to tell spirit like, hey, I don't believe it, send me another sign. Hey, I don't believe it, send me another sign. Next thing you know, they're gonna be like just throwing it at your head. Like, here, you wanted one, here, you wanted one. Because at the end of the day, they don't get tired. Only we do. So that's something that if you're like that, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of you that are, you're probably like, show me a sign, show me a sign, let me know it'll be okay. And they're like, all right, here's another one. Here's another one. And that's kind of what it is for me. And at this point, I stopped asking for signs, because at this point, it's gotten completely obnoxious, right? But I just thought that would be such a fun story to share with you guys on account of, well, shoot, that's like my actual weird, like, paranormal life, and that's kind of how it manifests for me. And so yeah, I don't know, because this video doesn't have a whole lot of structure, I'm not entirely sure how I anticipated on ending it, so I guess I'm just gonna end it.